Hello everyone, welcome to this class on Kathopnishads. We will start with the chanting first. Those of you who want, you can chant at your end. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Ana Shrinvanutibhi Siddh Sadhanam Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada गुरुर् ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So we have covered up till the 19th verse of this second Valli of the first Adhyay, the Pratham Adhyay, Dvitiya Valli, first chapter, part 2. So we are looking at the story of Nachiketas. So from here, the story actually transforms to the philosophical part. So it's a bit subtle, not difficult, but different. So we have to be very careful when we try to understand this, uh, because we have to give up what I would say is our regular linear thinking, right? Because when we are talking about Atma, we are talking about something that is infinite and beyond time and space, eternal, so Nitya, and then beyond any limitations of time, space, and object. So whatever regular logic we apply to normal worldly things, it doesn't apply to Atma. So it's not that the logic is wrong here. The worldly logic is different. You can say this logic is supra logic, a higher logic, right? It is very, very logical, but it's not in the sense when we normally apply to worldly things. Because in worldly things, we apply the logic of duality, truth, up and down, in and out, higher and lower, and so on, right? So, but in Atma, there is no such duality. So, because of that, the normal things like we say something must be true or false, they don't apply here. Uh, More than one things can be true when we are talking about this self-knowledge, this Atma Jnana. Same thing applies to the Veda also. A lot of people don't understand the Veda. They don't understand why we call it Sanatan Dharma, why we call it the Vedas as Sanatan, as being timeless, as having come from the Lord. Most of them try to see that there are different names of rivers, so that they must have come at the time when these rivers started and so on. But what we don't understand is these are metaphysical entities. So the names were taken from the Veda and given to those entities later on. So the Vedas, it is said, they are in the mind of God and are always given to the humankind or every being, in fact, at the beginning of creation. So when creation starts, it's made available. Then when the beings come into existence, they can, by meditation, get this knowledge, right? So the Veda is beyond time. It is eternal. It is something that is always available to all people at all times, provided you can focus inward and gather that knowledge. That is why, people don't understand the logic of Veda. That some people, if you find in the Veda that there is something called the name of the Veda itself. So Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, the three names, and also Atharva Ved, all four are mentioned in each of the Vedas. So how can you say which came first, right? So whenever we are talking about spirit, we are going into the subtle realm. Whenever we go into the subtle realm, then we have to give up this normal thinking of front and rear, before and after, and so on. Look, you can even see it in the case of the mind. In the case of the mind, there is a writer who writes a book, right? And then later on, it in his mind, the whole story is visualized, right? And then later on, he writes the sequel to that book. So then after some more time, he will write the prequel to the book. So the prequel is written after. So how can you now can you say which came first, the prequel or the time where the sequel? So in this way, you cannot order in time these things, because in the case of ignorance or knowledge of about worldly things, it goes eternally back in time. There is no starting point, because this creation is not independent. It is a projection upon Atma. Mm. Like they show flashbacks, yes. So, so at that time, you cannot say that this is something that happened at that time. So, in the mental world, you can go back in time also. You can go in front in time also, right? Similarly, in Atma, there is no limitation, in fact, of time and space, right? So, in fact, in modern science, slowly these concepts are coming together. We don't separate into bits and pieces, parts. We don't believe. We believe that ultimately at the subtle level, जब सूक्ष्म हो जाता है, at subtle level, everything merges into that one reality. So, like in modern science, with relativity and other modern theories, time and space have become one now. They consider time space as a continuum. What is continuum? There is no breaking point or no separation point between these two, right? But in our case, we also add the whole manifest world of matter also. Matter, time, and space, they become one at the subtlest level, at the सबसे सूक्ष्म level पे. So then we were looking at this part in the previous class. So I'll just repeat a bit of that because we have to carry this forward. So I'll just have written this down in the form of uh, the verses and the theory of it. So I'll just share this onto the screen. So we saw the 18th verse. न जायते म्रियते वा विपश्चित न अयम कुतश्चित बभूव कश्चित अजो नित्य शाश्वतो यम पुराण न हन्यते हन्य माने शरीर. So here we are talking about consciousness, vipaschit, this vipaschit atma, this consciousness as something separate from the mind body complex, something that has an independent existence, right? So here we are treating consciousness as a noun, as an independent entity, right? And in moreover, in a different way than we treat the worldly entities. So in the world, whatever we see, it is an object. So Atma is not an object. It is something because of which everything exists, right? So that is why Vipaschit, in many senses, one way, it means something that can see beyond normal time and space. Vipaschit, it pashyati, visheshena pashyati. It can see beyond what the mind and other instruments can see. So that is the one way of looking at it. So here we saw these properties of consciousness. So consciousness is not a part, product, or property of the body. Na jayate mriyate va. It is not born or uh, it does not die, right? So therefore, it is not a part, product, or property of the body. If it were a part of the body, you could be able to separate that consciousness, and it would have you can separately see that. But it functions through the whole of the body. It is not a product also. Otherwise, the body would keep producing that consciousness. It would never finish. And then also, it's not a property of the body. Because why? Because guna of anything does not separate. कोई भी गुण को आप उससे अलग नहीं कर सकते. So जो अगर if sugar is sweet, consciousness consciousness and chaitanya are similar in the sense that by consciousness we become aware of something, right? In pure consciousness there is nothing else besides consciousness, but in awareness, that consciousness when reflected by the mind, then it becomes by which it by that reflection it is able to cognize. So I gave you, if you remember, two terms there. We had seen two terms. One is Samanya Chaitanyam and one is Vishesh Chaitanyam. So Samanya Chaitanyam is just like the sunlight. It is everywhere. It is everywhere, and it is perceived only by a careful introspection, because sunlight still you can see the effect, but This Chaitanyam you cannot see. Because sunlight, when can you see? You cannot see the sunlight in space, but it is still there. It is there in the space also because there is no reflecting medium. There are no dust particles. That is why space is black, right? But that same sunlight is visible on the earth because there are particles that can reflect it. Similarly, consciousness also, that Samanya Chaitanyam is everywhere. It's not that it's not available. Huh? It's subtle. That does not mean it's not there. It's not that the only reflected consciousness is here. No, but I gave the example of the wall on which a mirror is reflecting a beam of the sun. So there, that mirror reflection will be very bright. But the sun is still there. So when you remove the mirror, that slight light of the sun will be perceived over there. Right. So that in that way, that Vishesh Chaitanyam is what is reflected by the mind, right? So this we will see in the Jivatma Paramatma. We've seen it earlier also. I'll just repeat it for you. So coming back to the properties of consciousness, so it is second is consciousness is an independent entity that pervades and enlivens the body. Vipaschit. It is an independent. It is able to pervade the body, and because of it, the body can be alive. It can perceive things. It can see things. So that is how consciousness is able to perceive or give the sense of knowledge, right? So in the pure consciousness, there is no separation of the worldly system of knowledge. There is pure consciousness. But when it is reflected, as we see in the case of the reflected consciousness, so there the mind is reflecting the consciousness onto the objects. So there they have the object or the object to be known. Then there is the knower, the one who is knowing through the mind, and there is the the instrument for knowing, that the sense organs by which the information is transmitted to the sense organs, right? So this consciousness, vipaschit, it is not, it is an independent entity that pervades and enlivens the body, right? So in as opposed to that, you can see that the body has parts, consciousness doesn't have parts. Then consciousness is independent, body is dependent, because the moment the consciousness is not available, the mind leaves, then the body also disintegrates. So then next is consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. So just like the sunlight is available everywhere, uh, but its special reflection is seen whenever we put a mirror or any reflecting medium in its path. So because of that, that special reflection is available. So same thing with the consciousness also. It is available wherever it is, there is a reflecting medium. Kuta bubhuva. Na jayate mriyate va nayam kutaschin babhuva. Where is it available for perception? It is not limited by boundaries of the body, but wherever the body is, it is available for perception. So what is the next one? Consciousness will continue to exist after the body is gone. Na hanyate. You cannot kill this consciousness. You cannot destroy this. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So this verse, this mantra is telling us about the properties of this consciousness. And then finally, why you can't see that consciousness, the surviving consciousness when the body is not there? Because medium is not there. So it's nitya. It's ever present, this consciousness. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purana, the whole sentence. So ajo, it is ever, it is unborn. It is nitya, not, it doesn't have a beginning or end. Shashvato, always will remain. Purana, right from the beginning it has been there. So in this way, it is not limited. So this consciousness is not limited by the three limitations that we know about all things in the universe. What are the three limitations? Limitation of time, space, object. Limitation of time, space, and object. So these are removed from the Atma by using these three terms, Ajaha, Nityaha, and Shashvata. Right? These three modifications are, these three limitations, sorry, are removed in this way. So it is not also because we are comparing it to the body, then it is not subject to the modifications of the body, the six modifications. So symbolically here two have been given, na jayate mriyate, but asti jayate vardate viparinamate apakshiyate vinashyati. So these six modifications are there for the body only, right? So when we are looking at these uh, modifications, they exist. The body is conceived, asti, then jayate, it is born, then vardhate, it grows, then viparinamate, it changes, constant change, then apakshiyate, it starts to decay, and then vinashyati or mriyate, then it dies. So that is one thing that is removed here. And then it is neither karta nor bhokta. The Atma is not a doer and it is not an enjoyer also. So this is given in this other verse we saw. Hanta chen manyate hantum. अंतुम चेर मन्यते हतम उभौ तौ न विजानीतः नायम हंति न हन्यते. So here it is being said in a very extreme word that Atma is cannot be killed, and there can no one can kill the Atma and no one can become the killer of the Atma. So in this way, the doer aspect is being removed. Killing is the extreme aspect, but any kind of action is not there in the Atma. Why there is no action? We have seen in the laws of Vedanta also. We have not covered all here. We have done in the other classes, but we saw that one of the laws is that swatmani kriya abhavat, and something cannot act upon itself. अपने ऊपर कार्य कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता. Just like the tip of this finger cannot touch the tip of this finger. Something else can touch. So therefore, in Atma, there is no something separate, nothing different from it. So therefore, there cannot be any kind of action on that, right? No kind of action there. So, so therefore, you can another way you can say neither cause nor effect. Atma can never be a cause or an effect. That is why it is said the world is a projection upon the Atma, right? Na kutaschid na bahu. So it neither came from anything nor became anything. So this way. So now this consciousness, this eternal consciousness is available everywhere. We have studied this earlier in this class also, that there is one original consciousness, OC, you can call it, which is everywhere, but it is not available for perception. How is it available for perception? When it is reflected. So whenever it is reflected of any medium, then we give it a special name, right? Just like the reflection of the mirror is can be different. Similarly, there is a very popular example given in Shastras, that is, there are a number of buckets with water. The sunlight is reflected in them, and in each bucket there is an image of the sun, right? So therefore, the bucket is appearing like having a light of its own. Similarly, when we are talking about the reflecting medium of is as the gross body. So this gross body is if the reflecting medium, then we call that same consciousness, it's not a different consciousness. Its name will become Vishwa in the case of the individual. Then the subtle body, the Sukshma Sharir. When the Sukshma Sharir is reflecting the consciousness, then that consciousness takes the name of Tejasaha. So we discovered why these names come also earlier. I will not repeat them here. And then finally, the Karan Shariram, the causal body. So when the causal body reflects the consciousness, it is called Pragya. So, and then finally, in the higher reality, in the case of Paramatma, then in Paramatma, the total consciousness, the total body, there the total body of the universe, that is called Virat or Vaishvanara. There the reflected consciousness is called Virat or Vaishvanara. Then in the case of the total mind, or we call it the Hiranyagarbha, the consciousness reflecting through the total mind is Hiranyagarbha. And then the consciousness reflecting to the total causal body. Mm, explained about Karan Sharir. Yes, I have explained it in the earlier class also here, but more detail in the Tattva Bodha classes. So Tattva Bodha 20 classes are uploaded onto YouTube. You can look it up there also, or maybe later on you can call me up and I can tell you. So this is uh, the last one. In the case of Paramatma, the total causal body, the total Karan Sharir of Ishvara is called Antaryami or Ishvara. Ishvara is there for all of these for Paramatma, but as a special case, we use that name for the total causal body because Ishvara is the cause of everything. Ishvara is the cause of everything, right? So these six levels of consciousness are available in the visible world, right? So this through these two mantras, the nature of consciousness is being told to us. So that is why we have to be very clear. It is beyond our normal understanding of duality. That is why it can never be expressed in words that will come later. उसको शब्दों में नहीं बोल सकते. Why? Because it is not an object. वर्ड कैन डिस्क्राइब एन ऑब्जेक्ट ओनली, राइट? शब्द से हम किसी वस्तु को बता सकते हैं, इंगित कर सकते हैं. सो बाय अ वर्ड वी कैन डिस्क्राइब, बट the the knower, the subject is ever available, ever there for us, for everyone, right? So the subject does not need words to tell. No one needs to tell you that you exist, that I am. So, and no one needs to tell you that you are knowing something. You are you have the knowledge, or you are getting the knowledge of anything. So that those two things are not required to be told to you. So I am, these two are always available to us. I, the consciousness, am the existence. Both are available. But what is not available to us normally, that Shastra has to tell us, has to come forward and reveal to us, that is the fact that the uh, what is the full true nature of this? So that is revealed to us by Shastra, and we have to understand by indirect way in our own internal state of meditation, whatever the Shastra will reveal to us, right? It also cannot point it out in the way of words. By logic, it will take us. That is called Arundhati Nyaya. Arundhati Nyaya, in Arundhati Nyaya, newly married couple is shown a star by pointing it through the leaves of a tree, because it's very subtle. So therefore, when you see that tree, see that star through the tree, you can tell, yes, this is the star we are talking about. Because otherwise, there are so many stars in the sky. Similarly, by indicative language. So this indicative language is going to come up in the next few verses, because it will appear like a what we call a paheli, as riddle, right? So it is this and it is that, it is that and it is this. So in this way it will come up. So let's go to the text. We saw the 19th verse so far. 18th and 19th I've just explained to you. So so now we are looking up at the 20th verse. So in this 20th verse, what is it? अनोरणीयान् महतो महीयान् आत्मा से जन्तोर्निहितो गुहायां तम् अक्रतुः पश्यति वीतशोकः धातु प्रसादान् महिमानमात्मनः अणोरणीयान् महतो महीयान् आत्मस्य जन्तोर्निहितो गुहायां तम् अक्रतुः पश्यति वीतशोकः धातु प्रसादान् महिमानमात्मनः. So what is saying? Atma, this Anoho, Aniyan, Mahato, Mahiyan. Two pairs of opposite. This Atma, this self, this soul is smaller than the smallest. Anoho, Aniyan. It is smaller than the smallest. The smallest that you can visualize, it is even smaller. And yet, Mahato, Mahiyan. Mahato, Mahiyan. It is larger than the largest that you can ever visualize. And then Atma, Asya, Jantuhu, Nihitaha, Guhayam. It is this Atma is situated in the being, or in the human being, or in any being, Nihita Guhayam, in the internal cave. So Guha. So what is that cave? That is the heart. The heart. It is manifest in the heart. So we saw earlier also explained to you, and we see in the case of the when the dead body is taken, there is a what we call the Atmaram, a piece of the bone which is shaped like a heart also. In it is said that the Atma resides here. So we'll see the contradiction of this and how it is resolved. And Atma asya janto nihitaya. Yeah, near the Raj Chakra, right? Good. So tam akratuhu pashyati vitishoka. So who can see this Atma? Who can know it? Akratuhu, the one without any kind of desire, or also the one without any kind of feeling that I am a doer. You have to give up the sense of doership. Kratu. Now, kratu is the doing, the action. Akratu, what we call a non doer. So the doer is not there. So nishkam is the word for this. So tam akratu pashyati vita shokah. So this desireless person, he sees the Atma as vita shokah, beyond any kind of grief. Veet is to cancel out, not available. So and shokah is grief or sadness. No? And then dhatu prasadat mahimanam atmanah. This is available to us through, we can look at dhatu in two words. Dhatu in grammar, it means the root word, right? Root word, the source from which the word is born out of. Similarly, these beings, all these beings are born out of that param dhatu, Ishvara. So he is the param dhatu, dhatu prasadat. Also, in another sense, the internal or the deepest essence of something. Essence of something. So essence of a word is a dhatu. So essence of anything is the atma. Everything is born out of the atma. So that is by the grace of this atma, by the grace of this essence, which we are trying to discover, only can this be known, right? So when we look a bit more at this verse, so first of all, Ano Aniyan Mahato Mahiyan. So when we are looking at this Atma, we are trying to grasp this Atma, then we have to go into another word that we used earlier, that is the Sukshma. Sukshma. So Sukshma is subtle. So in subtle, what we say, when something becomes subtle, it becomes more and more all pervading, more and more pervading, right? So when I'm talking about uh, the normal states of matter, the five elements, Panchatatvani. So they're the solid state. Then the next subtler state is the liquid state. You can melt something, it becomes more all pervading, and it can seep through other solid objects. And then finally we go more subtle into the gaseous state, and then the energy state. So they are more subtle, more pervasive. We put in our shastra, energy comes before the gaseous state, because in gaseous state there are even smaller elements than what the energy is composed of. There are these very very small particles that modern science is discovering, so that all those neutrinos and very very subtle elements, so all those are in vayu. All those compose the Vayu part. And then the most subtlest is space. Atma is even subtler. So what is happening here? We are seeing that something that is subtler, it expands to cover more space. So same way with Atma, or even we can say about the smallest of atoms or electrons. So in modern science also we are understanding that this electron, when we try to locate, we have to find it within a certain space. So we use the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, by which we have to take the product of the momentum and the position. So if the momentum of that or the mass of that object is very small, then the location is very large. It's present in a larger area. Same thing with subtle also, sukshma also. So what will be the ultimate limit? What will be the final limit? Is when the the mass is reduced to zero. If the mass is reduced or the momentum is reduced to zero, what will be the position? Located infinitely. That is the same with Atma. Atma is the source from which everything arises. So it is the subtlest, even subtler than this Akash, because we can perceive this Akash. So that means the perceiver of Akash must be more subtle logically, right? So this Atma is more subtle. इससे भी सूक्ष्म है, इस आकाश से भी. So this consciousness through which I am perceiving this Akash is more subtle, because one more thing about Atma is what? It has no properties. कोई गुण नहीं है. So that is why it cannot have any boundary. Because anything must have a boundary only if there is a guna. So उसमें रूप रस नहीं है, रूप नहीं है. It doesn't have any form. So if something doesn't have any form, obviously it is infinite in all directions. So in this way, this anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan, even despite being very very small, present everywhere. So that is the difference between a worldly object and atma, right? So in atma, the logic that something has to be smaller. So as like we are normally conditioned by our observation of the objects of the world, that something that is smaller will occupy less space, right? So that is the normal logic also we apply. So that logic is not wrong. So that logic is also correct. But there is a higher logic here. The higher logic is what? That it is sukshma. So when it is subtle, it takes up more space. So then it becomes mahato mahiyan, larger than the largest. It is infinitely all pervading. Everywhere that you can think of, everywhere in the universe, this consciousness is pervading, this existence is pervading. Because we saw earlier also, existence is similar to consciousness. We think of them as separate because we are operating through the mind. But otherwise, because they both are infinite, that there cannot be two infinites. So that means they are both the same only. So anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan. Then atma asya janto nihito guayam. So we are saying that this atma is present in the cave of the heart of this being. So that makes it limited. One way you are saying it is Mahato Mahiyan, and now it's here. So we have to understand in what way the Shastra is saying. That is why Ano Aniyan, Mahato Mahiyan has come earlier. Then he says that this Atma is present in the cave of the heart. Why cave of the heart? Because this is the center through which everything operates, right? So just like when the heart stops pumping, all the organs fail. So similarly, consciousness is understood to operate through the heart. So it is not that it is only in the heart. It's not that it is only in the heart, but its center is in the heart. Its center is in the heart, and it is all pervading. It functions from there in all directions. And so, tam akratu pashyati vitashokaha. So whoever can know this, he has to understand this as the non-doer, right? So we saw something that is infinite. It doesn't have parts. So if something doesn't have parts, you need two separate parts to act upon each other, right? There are two things, they will hit each other, bang against each other if they're separate. So if doesn't have any, then only can any action take place. No. So you want something to move, you push it. So you are separate, or your body, you can say, I will, because we are getting acclimatized to a higher thinking. Then don't think of yourself as the body, think of yourself as the Atma. So when your body is pushing an object, because two things are separate, but in Atma, there is no separation. So tam akratu. So the one who sees himself as Atma, who sees himself as akratu, he understands that this Atma cannot have any kind of activity. So what does he do? Pashyati vita shoka. So he goes beyond grief. Why? Because then nothing in this world is there as his own real nature. His real nature is beyond this of the world. And the joys and sorrows, they all belong to the world only. So he sees himself separate. And also in another way, also we can see that if you are looking at the matter world, at this inert universe, then here what is happening? Everything is operating on the system of cause and effect. Karya Karan. So Karya Karan. So cause effect is operating. So whatever is the cause is the action. And through the action, you will get whatever will the effect, that is the fruits of the action. Karma and karma phalam. So whatever has come to us is because of our previous karma phalam. So that person, he bears this karma phalam as the fruit of whatever this mind body complex has done in previous janmas. So in this janma, it is this body. Earlier, this body was not there. So what was there? This sukshma sharir, this mind, sense organs, intellect, and so on. So the 17 parts of the Sukshma Sharir we saw earlier. So this Sukshma Sharir was there in all our previous births. So that is the one that is carrying all the impressions of the previous Janmas, and therefore giving able to bear all pleasure and pain. Who bears them? Who bears the pleasure and pain? Can anyone tell? Mind,
Oh,
isn't it? Mind. So the mind through the sense organs, right? The subtle body, Sukshma Sharir, it is the one that experiences this pleasures and pain. Even if the body is experiencing it, the impression is finally carried to the mind, right? So it is in the mind that we experience. So the knowledgeable person, the akratu person, he leaves aside this pain as something that is a natural process of the universe. So therefore, he doesn't fight it. He doesn't reject it. Whatever has come is due to some action in the past. So dhatu prasadat mahimanam atmanam. So therefore, how can we know this? By this dhatu prasadat, by this uh, anugraha, we call it. So anugraha is again something, a word that we, some people think that God will come and give you liberation. No, we have to have the desire also, right? When we have the desire, then only he will come and give us. So that therefore, the when the tivra mumukshutvam, the desire for liberation is there, then only God can come and give it to you, right? But how will he give it to you? He just cannot give anything. He has to also operate within the law of karma. So whenever you have made a sincere effort, whenever you have done a very sincere study, and also you are willing to give up all the attractions of this material world, then only he comes to you, right? Even when you have your Ishta Devta, so even when you have your Ishta Devta, then that Ishta Devta, he doesn't start talking to you right away. हाँ, आपके कान्हा जी हैं, आपके राम जी हैं, आपके Vishnu ji hai. So whoever is your Ishta Devta, then that Ishta Devta will talk to you after a lot of deep worship. And then once that worship, that relationship is established, then he starts talking to you. You put up your questions, he answers. You seek guidance, he guides you. So you have to give that love. You have to pass on that love. So then only he will give it back to you. So that desire, that love should be there within you, then you get that response. So this dhatu prasadat represents that only. So Sanjay ji is saying, doesn't desire for anything itself prevent getting moksha, right? So desire, of course, for worldly objects, but desire for moksha is not technically a desire. Uh, it is a seeking for your true nature. So for that seeking, you have to put in an effort. You have to have that desire, right? So that desire is not the what we call, not the varjit, or not the rejected desire, not the desire that we are supposed to leave. This is one desire that is allowed, because it will ultimately take you to liberation. Once it reaches there, then even this will drop. Then even mumukshutvam will drop. Why you need mumukshutvam? Once you discover your true nature, then mumukshutvam is not of any use. It is only till reaching that stage, right? So all of these sadhanas are necessary in the beginning. Ultimately, you drop the sadhana also. That also we'll see in the later verses. So dhatu prasadat mahimanam atma. This mahima, this greatness, this glory of atma, and it can only be revealed here. So dhatu prasadat mahimanam atmanah. So when we are talking about this atma, आसीनो दूरं व्रजति शयानो याति सर्वतः कस्तं मदामदं देवं मदन्यो ज्ञातुमर्हति आसीनो दूरं व्रजति शयानो याति सर्वतः कस्तं मदामदं देवं मदन्यो ज्ञातुमर्हति. So here this very riddle that I'm talking about is being brought up here. Asino Duram Vrajati. So this Atma, even though it is sitting here, Asina, it is stationary, yet it can go far. Yet it can go far. Then Shayano Yati Sarvata. Even while sleeping, it can reach beyond whatever we can cognize. Then Kaha Tam Mad Amadam Devam. Mad Anyaha Gyatum Arhati. So who is that Deva who is beyond joy and joylessness? Mad Anya, who besides me, Mad Anya, besides me, who can know it? Gyatum Arhati, who is for whom is it possible to know, or who can know this thing? So this is the riddle being put here, that this Atma is near yet can reach far. How? We have seen earlier also, it is infinite, it is all pervading. So even though it is available as reflected consciousness here, even though it is available as this reflection through the mind body complex, it can still remain, it can still pervade everything beyond what the mind body is reflecting. It is there even beyond the range of the sense organs. So asino duram vrajati, even though it is near, it can still go far, right? So because it doesn't need to go anywhere, it is everywhere. Wherever you reach, Atma is there already. So you cannot beat it. The same thing is said in the Ishavasya Upanishad also. Hmm. So Shayano Yati Sarvato, even while sleeping. So even when the deep sleep state is there, that Atma can reach everywhere, right? Because in deep sleep, what is happening? The mind is not available. Man nahi hai. Mind is not available, but yet the consciousness is still there. So kaha tam mad avadam deva. So this Atma is what it is being said here, both joyful and joyless. Mad and amadam. So you can take it in two ways. So this Atma uh, and is of the nature of joy when reacting to, we are talking about worldly joy here. So of the nature of joy when it is reacting with the worldly objects. But when we are talking about this Atma without the worldly objects, then it is joyless. There is nothing for it to experience and to be joyful about. So this Devam, this Atma, this effulgent consciousness, Mad Anya Gyatum Arhati. So who else beside me can know this Atma? So who else beside me means what? This Yamaraj, Dharmaraj, right? So in this way, uh, he is saying by Madanya means he's talking like in Shankaracharya is saying he's using the term us here. He's using the term for Mad is using for me and you, for Nachiketas and Yamaraja. That is a person who has the Vivek Shakti or who has the integrity to be able to know this Atma. So in one way that is being said. But if you go a bit deeper, if you go slightly more deeper, then what is he saying? Mat is he is speaking from the highest. He is already a Jnani. So he knows that I am Atma. So then the Atma only can know itself. Something outside of Atma cannot know. Right? So that is the main meaning here. Madanya means here the Atma can know itself only. The sense organs, mind, intellect, they cannot know this Atma. They cannot know this Atma. Right? So today we'll have to wind up from here for now. We'll continue in the next class. We'll see more of this verse. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. That's it.